My name is Mr. Mario Tanasio. Let's welcome our friend Pomwene. Let's not forget to sanitize our hands and put on our mask, observe the distance, and our topic for today is on social health, particularly on substance abuse. As we said, our lesson for today, which is on page 18, it's on substance abuse. Before we go in details of our lesson, let's look at what do we have to know, or what are we expected to know at the end of the day. Learning competencies. We'll be able to describe substance abuse. We'll also be able to identify the health, social, and economic effects of alcohol, tobacco, and drugs on human beings. There are many words that we are going to use in this topic. Let's look at some words that we need to understand. The word abuse. Abuse means to misuse something like drugs or alcohol, meaning that you are overusing more than it was supposed to be done. Economic. Economic only has got to be with money and business matter. When we are talking about economic in this topic, we are going to refer to money and business-related issues. Social. Social is connected with groups of people and their community. When we're talking about social, we're talking about where we live, how everything is in our surrounding. Those are the words that we are going to use in this topic. Okay. Let's start with substance abuse. What is substance abuse? Substance abuse is when a person uses substances such as alcohol, tobacco, or drugs in a way that they are harmful to themselves and the people around them. We are saying that substance abuse is when you, as a human being, use either alcohol, or you use tobacco, or you use drugs more than that you're supposed to, until it becomes a danger to yourself or people around you. So before that as well, let's look at what type of substances that we abuse, or we have seen, or we see, or will end up seeing people abusing. We'll have, on page 19, we have a few pictures of some of the substances that can be abused. We have tobacco. Those are cigarettes that we see people smoking. We have alcohol, which can be different types of alcohol. We have beer, we have anything that people drink that is having alcohol. But there are also some other drugs that some of us may be not familiar with. We have cocaine, we have mad drugs, and cannabis as well. But mad drugs is some of the pills that people might use, but they are very dangerous, which can affect their health. Other community or other commonly abused solvents, these are the liquids that people may use that can also affect their health. It's glue, benzene, dry cleaning fluid, nail polish remover, and petrol. Those are some of the liquids that people use as solvents when they are using substances. Our lesson continues. We are now on page 20. So we are going to have more details on what happens to our bodies or to our communities or to our economic lives once we start or we are abusing substances. It says, identify the health, social, and economic effects of alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. We are going to look at them one by one in table form. We are starting with health effects. So we are going to look at How does alcohol, how does tobacco, and how does drugs affect your health? We are starting with alcohol. When you abuse alcohol, it normally changes the way you think. So you realize that when sometimes people get drunk, they start to say things that are not in order. Okay? So even they can greet you 10 times just on the spot because they are not by themselves. Alcohol can also affect your health in a sense that your behavior, you become irresponsible when it comes to behavior. You do things that you're not supposed to do. We have heard of people that were being raped, or somebody felt pregnant because she was drunk, or somebody have raped someone because he was drunk. He couldn't think in a correct way. Okay? It also slows one reactions and leads to poor judgment. So you realize that when some people get drunk, even the way they walk, so the legs look heavy, or sometimes instead of stepping right or front, they start stepping sideways or backward. So it means that now the body is not acting as it should because of alcohol. It affects one's organs and blood circulations. It means that the way that the blood is moving in your body, it goes abnormal. That's why even your temperature normally change when you get drunk. Okay? Another problem is that you can become addicted. And once you come to the point of being addiction, it can be compared to a disease. So you will be hardly live without it, and it can affect your life every day because you have to drink alcohol every day. That's the side of alcohol in terms of our health. Let's move to tobacco. Tobacco, it says it's very bad for someone's health because it causes the damage to the entire body, especially to the lungs. So the lungs, of somebody who smokes, they change. Every time when you smoke, there's tobacco, it means there's any smoke that is going into your body, and it goes straight to your lungs, and they start burning up your lungs. Okay, and on the other point as well, you can become addicted. As long as you get to the point of addiction, that tobacco will keep on burning up your lungs until it burns up totally to the point where you can have diseases like lung cancer. Drugs. Drugs can cause serious health problems, in some cases even leading to death. Okay? If you overdose pills, if you take pills more than you're supposed to, it means you have heard of people that have died of overdose. It means that you took tablets or you took kind of injections or medications more than you're supposed to. You can die at the spot. It can also cause weakness in the immune system. So meaning that if you are using drugs, your immune system, which was supposed to take care of your body to control everything that happens in your body, it becomes weak. So at that point, you might even suffer from different diseases, both because your body cannot defend itself anymore. It leads to heart abnormal condition, like abnormal heart rate and heart attack. People that use drugs can easily suffer from heart attacks, meaning that your heart is not functioning properly anymore because the pace of how your heart works is being affected by drugs. And then lastly, on drugs, they can destroy your liver. Your liver in your body, once it gets destroyed, it means whatever goes in your body which contains alcohol, it will not get filtered anymore. And then at the end of the day, your liver gets destroyed and you can have cancer or other diseases and you can even die. That's the health part on how alcohol, tobacco, and drugs can affect us as human beings. We are moving to social effects. Social effects is about how us and surrounding we interact and how do we live with our neighbors and the whole community. Let's start with alcohol. We said the social effects of alcohol is that somebody changes the behavior. You realize that we have a very good boy at a young age, and once you start consuming alcohol, they can even start swearing at people. They are using bad languages because alcohol have changed their behavior. They become aggressive. So these people cannot even play with them. Sometimes just a simple, peaceful touch on their body, they can even punch you or insult you or take stones to hit you. So it's because that's what alcohol does to us. It means that we are not going to have peace with our friends anymore. Another point is that one can still to pay for more alcohol. Once you get addicted, you can't live without alcohol anymore. And if you don't have money, you have to go and steal. And we know that stealing is not one of the things that we should do because of how it will affect us. Okay? Underage drinking can cause problems at school. Once you're a child, like from when he starts drinking, so when he goes to school, he might end up fighting with his friends, classmates, swearing at teachers, and everybody there. So once you start drinking while you're even young, it's even worse compared to somebody who is older. If you're working and you like drinking alcohol, you'll end up losing your job and can even lead to breakdown of the family. So when you're drunk every day, your boss or your manager or whoever is supervising, you might think that no, it's enough with you, because even if you come to work, it doesn't serve any purpose, because you can't do anything looking at the health factors because your body is weak, or you just don't have energy, or you can't just control your behavior. So you end up losing your job. And then if you lose your job, there's nobody to support the family anymore. You realize that people are moving out of the house to any place that can help their lives. How does tobacco affect our social living or our social health? It said that tension in the family, you are always lying trying to hide the smell. So when you smoke, you come home, you try to eat sweets. Okay, this is what normally happens. When your father smokes, or your mother smokes, or your brother or sister smokes, when they're coming home, they try to eat sweets to make sure that that smell of tobacco disappears. And then, because of that, when they ask if you smoke or not, you will end up arguing, or you will end up having misunderstandings in the family. So, it also have bad breath, dull skin, and smelly hair. So meaning that when you smoke, that smell of cigarette, it remains on everything of yours, your hair, your hands, your clothes. So you smell everywhere. And then sometimes people might not like that smell of cigarettes or tobacco. It can also lead to punishment at school. If you go to school and you smoke, you might hear that your teachers are saying, because of this or because you smoke, we are going to punish you in this way. Let's look at drugs. People that abuse drugs, how are they behaving in our societies? They still to pay for drugs. So somebody has to steal money so that they can buy those drugs. They also, if you are underage, you can also lose control. You can even kill somebody. You can also do unnecessary things because you are not on your own. And then you might affect people that are living around you, your sisters or your neighbors and everybody in your location or your village. Okay, your schoolwork go down. It means that you don't perform anymore because your brain cannot function properly. So your schoolwork start to go down. If you are getting A's, you'll end up getting E's, F, G, and U's and those symbols. Family conflict or breakup. So most of the families in our country have broken up because of drugs. The father comes home or the mother comes home after consuming drugs, and there's a misunderstanding, there are fights, and then at the end of the day, they end up breaking their relationship. They all go separate ways. We are continuing on page 21 on the economic effects, which says, how does drugs, tobacco, and alcohol affect us in terms of economics or money? Let's start with alcohol. Addiction influences the ability to work well. Thus, one can lose his or her job. When you're abusing alcohol, your judgment, your thinking, your behavior, everything change. And then you'll end up being fired or losing your job. And then once you lose your job, you're not going to have incomes anymore. You are not going to have a salary anymore. So because of that, you are going to be broke because there's nothing supporting your life as far as money is concerned. It also goes to the health system. So when people are consuming or abusing alcohol, a lot of diseases are going to happen. They are going through or are going to suffer from different diseases. And now they are going to go to hospitals now and then just to buy medicine or medications to support their health. So it means that it's going to be very, very costly for you to go to the hospital every day and pay for the medications. Money is spent in alcohol instead of food. So imagine that your father works or your mother works, but every month instead of coming home with food, doing shopping, they're just going to buy alcohol. So you have nothing to eat at home. That's one of the reasons why it's not good to use alcohol as far as money is concerned. Let's look at tobacco. How does tobacco affect our financial life? Addiction influences the ability to work well. Thus, one can lose one's job as well. The same as alcohol, if you are smoking, you might get addicted. Sometimes, while you're supposed to be at work, you have to sneak in and go smoke. And then by then, your supervisor or your boss or whoever is in charge will start complaining that you are missing from work, and they'll end up firing you. Goes to the health system as well. So we have learned or we have heard that some of the diseases, like for example, cancer, the medications are very expensive. So if you are smoking, you might suffer from lung cancer, and then at the end of the day, you need a lot of money to have right medications. Sometimes you even need surgery, and sometimes become very, very costly. You might go to other countries or other continents for surgery or for operations, which is very, very expensive. Money is spent on alcohol. Money is spent in tobacco instead of food. So instead of our parents or our brothers and sisters buying food for us to eat, they're just going to buy tobacco. So imagine that every time they say that people that smoke don't keep money, because now and then they need to buy tobacco for them to smoke. So it means they're going to be broke every day. Lastly, let's look at drugs. How do drugs affect our financial situation? Addiction influences the ability to work well. Thus, one can lose the job as well. All of them, either it's alcohol, or it's tobacco, or it's drugs. Once you become addicted, you lose your job. And once you lose your job, you're not going to have a salary at the end of the month, or whenever you get paid, you're not going to have money anymore. It's also called the health system. It means that a lot of money will be spent on our health. Okay? Imagine that you are working, but every day you have to go to the hospital. You take a taxi, or maybe you have a car, you fuel up your car every day. When you go to the hospital, you have to pay. It means that instead of now using that money for something better, you're just spending it in your health. Money is spent in drugs instead of food. So people are just going to buy drugs. They're not going to pay for your school fees. They're not going to pay for your transport to go to school. They're not going to buy you anything. Whatever you need at school as a child, your parents, your brothers, or whoever is taking care of you will not be able to support, because they only have money to buy the drugs. I hope you have been listening, and then you understand what we have discussed. The last part, we are looking at assessments. Okay? Let's see if we have understood what we have discussed here. Question 1. We want you to describe what it means by substance abuse. If somebody say substance abuse, what do they really mean? That's question 1. Question 2. We are going to identify and name one effect that the abuse of substances has on a person. We are saying health, social relationships, education, they are all going to be affected if we abuse substances. What do we want you to do? On health, you mention one, either whatever you think is right for you to mention there, and explain how does it affect in terms of health. You do the same thing on A, you do the same thing on B, you do the same thing on C. You just identify them and explain how do they affect the life of people and those ones that are living with. We thank you. Let's not forget to sanitize our hands. We keep our mask on and our distance as well. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
What is social distancing? Hi everyone, I am Zoshi, and I'm back. It literally just means that you need to stay home all the time and keep away from crowded places. And remember to keep your distance from your friends too. Everybody stay safe. Yay! Till next time. Bye!
Beautiful souls, this is Nikita Winkler and I'm here to share easy tools for stretching that you can do just about anywhere. This is a demonstration, so what's most important is that you take the time in each position that your body needs to release its tension. In this session, we will stretch the hips. What you'll need are yoga blocks or books, thick books, or pillows, especially if you have tight hips. You can do this on a mat, on the floor, on a blanket, or even in your bed. Let's get started. So we're going to start on the floor with the soles of our feet together. I'm going to grab around the feet. This is a butterfly position. So in order to warm up the hips, I'm just going to flap the butterfly wings. And again, take your time. I'm going to lean forward, and here, again, if the hips are too tight, you can place your blocks, books, or pillows underneath. You might even feel a stretch in the back here. From this position, I'm going to take one arm right behind me, not too far from my body. The other arm, inhale, exhale, press the hip open. And come back to center. Change. One arm right behind me to lengthen the spine, the other hand on the knee. Inhale, exhale, press the hip open and back to center. Now we're going to lie down on the floor. And first, before I get started, I have to make sure that my body, my spine is in alignment. I'm going to just open up the neck area. And you can spend as much time as you need here, allowing the force of gravity to weigh on the legs to open up the hips. You can place your blocks, books, or pillows underneath the knees. And gradually, you can take the feet even further down and spend enough time in each position. From here, we're going to go into an internal hip rotation. I'm going to spread my feet to the side, lean the knees inwards. If you have a little bit more flexibility, you don't really feel the stretch, just take your feet even further apart to deepen this internal rotation stretch in your hips. From here, I'm just going to place my feet, and without repositioning the feet, I'm going to take my arms to the side, and then I'm just going to rock my legs side to side, keeping the upper body facing up, shoulders down. And then I'm going to stop on one side, take the lower leg over the upper to add weight, to deepen the stretch. Release the leg and switch. Other side, lower over the upper. And back to center. Last part, I'm going to spread my legs as wide open as I can, and I'm going to just row the boat. So what's important here is that the knees don't lift off the floor. Make sure you row both sides. Keep the knees and both bum cheeks on the floor. Alternatively, you can just lean forward. You can hang out on the pillow. Take your time on the blocks or on your books. And that is it. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to breathe into your stretches, and happy stretching.
Many countries that have passed their first peak of COVID-19 are experiencing a second rise in cases. Is this a second wave of infections, and could even more waves lie ahead? Previous pandemics might give us a clue. The 1918 Spanish flu was the most deadly pandemic in modern history. It killed at least 50 million people. Its second wave was the most deadly by far, killing millions more than the first and third. More recent outbreaks, such as SARS and swine flu, have also had 2 or more waves, so it looks like the COVID-19 pandemic could have several too. The World Health Organization has warned about the dangers of a deadly resurgence. Many countries and places have seen infections accelerate after bringing their first waves under control. These rises aren't necessarily new waves, they could be spikes. Spikes are rapid rises in cases that aren't sustained, whereas waves happen over longer periods and often contain several spikes or peaks. Second waves only take place after a first wave has retreated. Many scientists believe more waves are inevitable and think a worse one could hit during autumn or winter. Some other coronaviruses spread faster when the weather is cold. If this is the case with COVID-19, it would put health systems under huge pressure. Many people are still vulnerable, and immunity to the virus might only last a few months for those who recover. It's also possible that mutations to the virus could lead to new waves. Hundreds of mutations have been found, and some could potentially make the pandemic more severe. One mutation may have already improved the ability of the virus to bind its spike proteins to human cells. This strain of the virus appears to unlock cells more easily and has become dominant around the world. It's unknown how the virus will continue to change, but further mutations could make it even more dangerous and harder to control. A reliable vaccine would help solve many of these problems, but it may take many months or even years to find one. Until then, we all need to make long-term lifestyle changes to protect ourselves from further waves. How are you learning to live in a world with COVID-19?